that a member of the Weather Underground, Bill Ayers, actually hosted Barack Obama's first fundraiser when he ran for state senate. Senator Booker.
I find hearings like this frustrating. And they deepen, to me, what is a problem in our country, which is a growing tribalism and our inability to come together and work on issues where we have so much common ground. It's not a senator in the United States, and I know them well and have friends on both sides of the aisle, that condemns political violence, that does not condemn political violence. But when we hold hearings that come at this issue that reflects the partisanship of our time and the tribalism of our time, we don't get to a solution. We are in a crisis right now, and there is growing political violence and a growing justification for it. But I find it stunning that the way we talk about it seems more about grievance politics and trying to score points than actually getting to the root of what is an American problem. And it frustrates me when that is so transparent and clear, especially when we don't talk about people on our own side of the aisle. Chuck Schumer was very wrong in what he said, and my colleague held up the quote. I've actually seen that quote. I've lost count of how many times my colleagues have raised that quote. But you know what they never say? Is that he came out and apologized for it. That Chuck Schumer, using self-interrogation, said, I was wrong. I've never seen the President of the United States who has spoken about punching people in the face, who has said a lot of violent rhetoric, has never given that type of self-interrogation. I don't understand how we could be having a hearing right now at a time when threats on the senator sitting up here have gone through the roof, where we can't have a constructive conversation, but instead are pitting witnesses against witnesses, many of whom, like Mr. Hodges, have had to sit there and relive his trauma over and over again in hopes that something would be done about the problem. And God, we should just tell the truth. There is political violence. Extremists who have left-wing ideologies and right-wing ideologies. To say it's just one and not the other is to deepen the problem. But we have an administration right now who is eviscerating the people that should be keeping us safe, and who is pulling down from the website, as they did earlier this year when the Department of Justice removed from its website a government-funded report published last year that found that the number of far-right attacks continues to outpace all other types of terrorism and domestic violence extremism. If we can't accurately describe a problem and do it without partisan rhetoric or seeking to score partisan points, we will not solve this problem. I have a lot of colleagues that are wiser and more full of grace. I'm a big believer about faith, that before you tell me about your religion, first show it to me in how you treat other people. If you ascribe to the beliefs of my faith, of Jesus Christ, God, show grace. And I still remember bemoaning to Tim Kaine about the problems we have in our growing hostile, degrading and demeaning political climate. And he said, the only way this is ever going to be cured, he said to me, was by each of us showing every single day a relentless commitment to ideals of extending grace to one another. I haven't heard any of that rhetoric in the little bit of this hearing that I've listened to. I've heard finger-pointing, condemnation, demeaning and degrading that reflects our partisan divide. This is the American problem. I am so frustrated to sit before members of our law enforcement who have suffered in our house trying to protect us violence that I never imagined could happen. And yet we have an inability to name it and condemn it and commit ourselves to doing something about it. I will do my best to call it like it is. To hear quotes that I've even said that need to be tamped down, because the only thing that's going to save our country now is not more political posturing. and partisan finger pointing. The only thing that's going to get us out of this condition is for courageous leaders in both parties to start standing up and extending grace and self-introspection. It's a lot easier when I call out Chuck Schumer's comments to make a difference. And God, I wish I'd see more of my colleagues being willing to call out the President of the United States for his outrageous comments as well. Thank you.
Senator Blackburn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to each of you for being here today, and to our law enforcement that is here. We thank you for your service. Mr. Knowles, I do want to come to you, and it is wonderful to have you here with us today, and we appreciate that you're a Nashville resident, have been there for several years now, and I want to return to the topic of the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And one of the things that was quite disturbing to me was quotes that came from activist professors. And we had in Tennessee 3 professors that made just horrendous statements. 2 have been terminated. 1 is going through a termination hearing at this point. An assistant dean at MTSU posted on Facebook, "Looks like old Charlie spoke his fate into existence. Hate begets hate. Zero sympathy." There was an assistant professor at the University of Tennessee, and their post referenced Charlie Kirk, and it was, "The world is better off without him in it, even those who are claiming to be sad for his wife and kids. His kids are better off living in a world without a disgusting psychopath like him and his wife." And then an English professor at Cumberland University posted on Facebook, "Crying about a Nazi getting shot while staying silent about the school shooting in Colorado today is peak Republican." Now, I believe that people that praise violence should not be anywhere near our children. I do not know of a parent that wants their child to be receiving instruction from an individual who glorifies and applauds brutal murder and the murder of a husband, a father, the murder of someone who believes, like me, that our nation has been kept free because we believe in robust, respectful, bipartisan debate. And I would like for you to talk for just a minute about what is happening in higher education and the role that seems to be playing in some of this violence and violent rhetoric.
I think you make a marvelous point, Senator. You cannot possibly expect a parent to send their children to a school where the professors might endeavor to kill half the students. It would be like going to a restaurant with the assumption that the waiters want to poison half the customers or something like that. You can't go to a hospital where the nurses want to kill half the patients. It's just, you cannot operate a society that way. That is obviously beyond the pale. And if you are to permit that kind of speech into the marketplace of ideas, it doesn't have the effect of expanding the marketplace of ideas. It actually shrinks the marketplace of ideas. This is why the First Amendment obviously prohibits things like direct threats or obscenity or fighting words, because these are forms of speech that actually undermine rational discourse. I think Senator Booker made a good point just a moment ago when he said we have to self-examine, we have to be introspective. And I can't help but think of a line today. Jay Jones has the vision, commitment, and integrity to keep families safe and make sure every Virginian gets a fair shake in the justice system. I'll be working every day to ensure Jay wins this race. That's the endorsement of Senator Booker for a man who would seek to be the Attorney General of Virginia. This is a man who, if people have not been reading the news, has called for a Republican to be murdered, for his children to be murdered, for the children to die in their mother's arms in order to persuade the Republican to change his policy views, and a man who says that he would urinate on the graves of multiple Republicans. Senator Booker, in this spirit of introspection, is standing by this endorsement. So I suppose I would invite, well, perhaps I should have looked, because Senator Booker has left the room, and I think I can guess why. Senator Booker, I think, should practice what he preaches, because this is the kind of moment. You cannot have a professor who wants to teach students and is going to desire to kill half of them. You certainly cannot have law enforcement officers who would engage in this kind of violent rhetoric against half of their constituents. So long as anyone stands by an endorsement such as that, their words are meaningless. They are shedding crocodile tears on the topic of political violence.
I find it just so astounding that we have professors that continue to be in classrooms and hold such views as I put on the posters behind me, and that parents are then having to address those issues with their kids. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Senator Padilla.